and burial. Sibahle Mota reports.
The appeal on the matter follows hot on the heels of yet another setback for the family. This as the Constitutional Court refused the Lungu family direct appeal in the Apex Court. The family has been left with no choice but to return to the Pretoria High Court or continue engagements with the Zambian government in the matter. A joint statement was released on Monday confirming that formal discussions over Lungu's final resting place had commenced.
Parliament in South Africa is back this week after its members' winter constituency work. Tomorrow, President Cyril Ramaphosa will answer oral questions in the National Assembly. Ministers from the economic cluster will follow on Wednesday. The Communications and Digital Technologies Department appear before the Parliamentary Committee to present its state of readiness for digital switchover and the update on the implementation of a broadcast digital migration. Parliament's ad hoc committee, established following KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations of corruption in the justice system, is expected to get clarity on his availability to appear before it before the 22nd of this month. Onto this now. The United Nations has urged the Nigerian authorities to arrest those behind an attack in the northeast of the country, in which at least 63 people were killed. 5 soldiers were among the dead after Boko Haram gunmen stormed a village in Borno State over the weekend. Marcy Shangun from Human Rights Watch told the BBC the authorities failed to heed the residents' warning.
People began to notice unusual Boko Haram activities and had alerted the authorities. When people alert them that there is an impending attack, you would assume, that reinforcement will be sent or an effort will be made to disperse the Boko Haram fighters who were obviously gathering and getting ready for an attack long before it happened Friday night into Saturday morning.
And South African education experts are concerned that 8 out of 10 children are struggling to read. This as the country marks International Literacy Day. Today also marks the start of National Book Week. Save the Children South Africa's Gertrude Mabeza says encouraging children to read must be a collaborative effort.
It's really concerning the fact that South Africa's rate of reading is very low. We actually were last in the global assessment. It's really pathetic in that it means children's lives will never change, because if you look at it, success is built on literacy to a bigger extent.
And Hamas says it has received ideas from the U.S. Via mediators on how to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. It has released a statement after U.S. President Donald Trump issued what he called a last warning to Hamas. The BBC's Yolandi Nell reports.
Hamas said it was discussing with mediators how to develop some ideas from the American side aimed at reaching a ceasefire agreement. Earlier, the U.S. president had written on social media, "The Israelis have accepted my terms. It is time for Hamas to accept as well." Israeli journalists report that the new proposal involves all 48 remaining hostages, living and dead, being returned on the first day of a truce in exchange for thousands of Palestinian prisoners, with talks to end the Gaza war.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahabe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In a sports headline, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad feels embarrassed by the heavy defeat at the hands of the England side. And Rory McIlroy claimed the Irish Open in a dramatic playoff. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
We're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Today on hashtag Africa Update Off, the family of the late Zambian President Edgar Lungu has filed an application for leave to appeal following the rejection of their attempt to approach the Constitutional Court in South Africa. Our question to you today is, what are your predictions around this saga? Let us know your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Off.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126.
I can see my whole world changing.
And contribute to the conversation. Get set and be ready to go. On the move with Falisa Tawo and Benjamin Mushatama. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:07 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The family of the late Zambia's President Edgar Lungu has filed an application for leave to appeal following the rejection of their attempt to approach the Constitutional Court in South Africa. A full bench of the Gauteng High Court ruled in favor of the Zambian government. The court found that as a former head of state, Edgar Lungu's remains must be repatriated to Zambia for a state funeral at Embassy Park in Lusaka, citing overriding public and national interest. We now cross live to our Channel Africa reporter, Michael Mbewe, who is at the Pretoria High Court. Michael, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon to our listeners in Africa, but also beyond, Lulu.
Now, Michael, what's coming out of the court? What's the latest?
Yes, Lulu, we're coming to you live from the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, where the matter between the leave to appeal matter between government of Zambia and the Lungu family was being heard this morning. And this is happening barely, a few days after a statement signed by both parties, to saying that they want to end this. But I know we'll come to that discussion. But today's proceedings began at around 9:30 this morning, where the family of the Lungu was being represented by South Africa's Constitutional Court lawyer, Advocate Tembeka Nkaitobi, should I say, rather a constitutional lawyer expert, an expert in the Constitution of South Africa. Advocate Tembeka Nkaitobi, senior counsel, who presented arguments that led former President Lungu's wife, Esther, has the right to bury her husband anyway, and in this case using the South African law, while the government says another country's law cannot be used in a foreign country. So the matter has been presented, and therefore judgment is reserved by the judge Lulu.
Now, Mike, last week there was a statement that was released, signed by both government and the family of the Lungu family, that an agreement had been reached. What is happening now regarding that?
Well, there are so many, skeletons to this, Lulu. And when we saw that statement, we were both, hopeful that maybe now this issue is becoming, to a finality. When we saw those, signatures by both parties, in this case, the government being represented by Patrick Gangwa, the Secretary to the Cabinet, and then the family being represented by spokesperson Makebe Zulu, which raised the government of the Republic of Zambia and the family of the late 6th President Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu announced the commencement of formal discussions, marking a significant step towards resolving the 3-month impasse. So meaning that a mediated process were to be employed to resolve outstanding issues with jointly appointed mediators. But today we were here in court, and those arguments have been presented by the appealing side of the Lungu's family, saying that they have the powers and the rights to really bury the late president, anywhere they want to do so, Lulu.
So now
it seems that we will be back for the judgment, from the High Court, whether they will be granted the the leave to appeal to go now to the CSA. Just to recall also that when that judgment was passed, on the 8th of August against the Lungus, Lulu, they quickly jumped to appeal, and then they seek access to the Constitutional Court, which was not granted. The Constitutional Court dismissed the appeal, and they said no, it should go back to the to make those arguments to the High Court. That's where we are today, and then we'll be waiting, for that judgment to come, whether it stands or they will go forward with the appealing.
Any indication as to how long the wait will be?
Today, we remember the first judgment. The judge, acting president Lulu Gaboo, pronounced, because it was on Monday as well, and then he said before Friday the judgment will be, passed. But in this one, they just said that the judgment has been reserved, and then obviously we will wait for the communique so that we can come back and hear what the judgment is going to be, Lulu. But another thing that I wanted to emphasize is that it's been 3 months, Lulu. The worry is that what is happening, to the body of the late President Edgar Lungu. I mean, it's been a while.
We would presume that he is at a mortuary where, they're probably keeping his body there, and it should be intact once once the decisions are made on the way forward.
Indeed, Lulu. But it's because even today as well, the attendance was very, few people came from the government, and then also from the Lungus family, being led by the spokesperson Makebi Zulu, and they both declined to give us any comment, from us from the media. They've always been welcoming to speak to us, but today there was no one who came forward to say no. We will speak on behalf of both parties, Lulu.
Well, Michael, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. As our reporter Michael Mbewe, who is at the Pretoria High Court in South Africa, joining us on the line.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et votre 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Well, today on #Africa Update Ask, we focus on the Zambian President Edgar Lungu's application in terms of his family's application for leave to appeal following the rejection of their attempt to approach the Constitutional Court in South Africa. Now, our question to you is, what are your predictions around the saga? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Update Us.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
The second edition of the Africa Climate Summit is underway in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with the aim to serve as a platform to inform, frame and influence commitments, pledges and outcomes. Our Save the Children South Africa is attending the summit, and we are now joined on the line by 16-year-old Elizabeth, who is in Addis Ababa as part of the delegation from Save the Children South Africa. Elizabeth, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so honored to be part of this conversation.
Elizabeth, what is the latest coming out of, tell us about this summit, I beg your pardon, and why is it important for you and Save the Children to attend? And tell us how you got to be one of the delegates attending this summit.
Okay, so this gathering, it's not just a gathering, it's a turning point, right? Where as Save the Children is amplifying our voices as children, It's making sure that our voices are not sidelined. So it is a very important gathering to make sure that we keep these leaders accountable, right? To make sure that we learn about climate change, we tell them about our experiences, right? As Save the Children South Africa, and also as the children in South Africa, and the children also in the African continent as a whole. So it's just hearing different views. It's very important for us as children, because we learn from each other. We learn different, we get different ideas and different perspectives, since we are from different parts of the world.
Now, tell us more about how climate change has affected you.
Climate change has really affected me as a child, because in South Africa, for one, we have a lot of heat waves, and those heat waves make us really uncomfortable. We get migraines, and it disrupts us from going to school or even participating in school. And I've heard from the children here in the pre-summit yesterday. They were telling us about their complaints. Some of them were telling us that, their families are having agricultural activities. So those activities are destroyed, they are disrupted because of natural disasters that are happening because of climate change. And they depend on such activities, because their families get food from these agricultural activities and even get income. So it is affecting all the children in South Africa, and also the whole Africa as a whole. We are so vulnerable as children.
Now, you drafted the declaration from the children. Tell us about this declaration.
So this declaration is going to be shared amongst the duty bearers in all countries, and children came out and told and said that they needed at least 30% of child participation in decision making. They want formal platforms to speak out, to be heard. They want more child participation, because they want more inclusion, with all children from rural areas, informal settlements, and those with disabilities. They want to be heard. They want inclusion, because we need more numbers in such summits. We need more children in such summits from different parts of the world, different perspectives. We need to all gather and speak out and hear from our leaders on how they're going to be accountable and how they're going to make sure that we get change.
And now, tell us about your interaction with other children from other countries who may also be there to get their voices to be heard. What sort of interactions are you having and discussions are you having?
We're having a lot of discussions in terms of what are we doing as to the children in those countries. I've heard a lot of them saying that they are going to campaigns. Some of them are teaching other kids about climate change. So we're learning a lot from each other, and we are experiencing different things. So we come together and share the same ideas. And you never know, there's different things that they go through, and I didn't know about them until today, until the summit. I get to learn about other children from Ethiopia, other children from Malawi, what they are doing and how they are actually tackling this issue of climate change in their countries. And also at home, and also at home, we're also planting trees. We are doing campaigns. Save the Children help us to do campaigns, to have posters, to teach other learners, right? So we are also doing something.
Well, Elizabeth, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
That's a 16-year-old South African Elizabeth, who is in Addis Ababa as part of the delegation from Save the Children South Africa. She was joining us on the line. It is 21 after 12 Central African time.
Broadcasting in 5 different languages, connecting the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective. Call us on +27 63 406 9126.
I can see my whole world changing.
And contribute to the conversation.
South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile will open the 12th SA AIDS Conference today at the Emperor's Palace in Gauteng. The event gathers leaders, researchers, academics and advocates from South Africa and beyond to tackle the ongoing fight against HIV and its management. For more on this, we are joined on the line by public health specialist at Anova Health Institute and SA AIDS Conference 2025 co-chairperson, Dr. Kate Rees. Dr. Rees, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, the theme this year is Unite for Change, Empower Communities and Redefine Priorities for HIV/AIDS. How important is redefining priorities for HIV/AIDS in South Africa today?
Well, we're in a situation with our HIV response at the moment where we're having a lot of challenges and we have to do more with less, with all the funding cuts from the US and the rest of the world. This involves ensuring that prioritization is done using evidence, using data, using science, also listening to community voices. And so part of the purpose of meetings like this is to start to develop some consensus on what those priorities need to be.
And you've just touched on something that's very key, the recent funding cuts for HIV/AIDS programs. This has raised concerns. And how is the conference going to address the impact of these cuts and what strategies are being proposed to ensure that sustainable funding for HIV programs in South Africa continues?
Yeah, absolutely. The funding cuts have been a massive blow for South Africa and regionally. As the conference, we are bringing together a range of different sectors, including important government and policymakers, people from the private sector, from the research and scientific communities, and from communities themselves. And we're asking some of the hard questions. We're asking, how should we reimagine our HIV program in this context? And we're asking, what is the role of prevention with the tight budgets that we have? How do we bring in AI to help to advance our needs whilst keeping communities involved? So that's really the main talking points that we have, and it's all going to address all of the funding challenges that we find ourselves in today. A lot of the work is to make sure we prioritize the correct things and don't drop the achievements that we've made already.
Now, speaking of achievements, South Africa has made strides in HIV research, including a groundbreaking HIV cure trial in Durban, that's in the KwaZulu-Natal province of the country, showing promising results for antiretroviral therapy, drugs, control. Now, will this trial and its implications be a focal point at the conference, and how can these findings be advanced to benefit broader HIV management strategies?
So the cure itself and cure research is not really a focal point of the conference. We're focusing more on prevention modalities that are kind of closer to access already, that are closer to South Africans. And that's things like long-acting PrEP. However, what's so critical about this cure trial and what we will be talking about at the conference and what we really need to remember is that investing in research, investing in researchers, investing in research infrastructure is absolutely essential so we can have this kind of science and so that we can advance the cure agenda and the vaccine agenda.
Now, young people, sex workers remain highly vulnerable to HIV/AIDS. What specific initiatives or discussions at the conference will focus on engaging these groups to enhance prevention, treatment and advocacy efforts?
Yes, so these are really important groups and we are really pleased to have them participating in the conference. We have members of sex worker advocacy community here, and we will have a speaker from Sesonke, and that is a sex worker advocacy group helping us, attending, speaking, ensuring that scientists and policymakers get to hear what sex workers actually need on the ground in terms of prevention especially. Something I also want to mention about young people is that Dira Sengwa has got an Emerging Leadership Award that they put forward which will be presented on the final day. And it's a monetary award that will help to advance leadership of young people in the sector. And the candidates are really wonderful.
Community empowerment, a key pillar of this year's theme. How will the conference promote community-led responses to HIV/AIDS? And what practical steps can be taken to ensure communities are equipped to lead in the fight against the epidemic, and also just considering that stigma is still a major problem when it comes to, people accepting and just being open about what is happening with their lives?
Yes, we owe a lot of our achievements in the HIV response in South Africa to community groups. And I think what's really important to understand is that a lot of the time, especially recently, some of the funding to help keep these groups going has been coming from the US or from the other funders around the world. We need to make sure that we fund community groups. They can't run on air. We need to fund them to enable them to work collaboratively with the Department of Health so that we can advance with the right voices being in the right places. And so I think that's a really important thing to understand, is that communities can't just organize and thrive. We need to support them and we need to help fund them.
And just in wrapping up, Dr. Rees, with global and local stakeholders gathered at this conference, how will this event foster collaboration between researchers, policymakers, and advocates to address both the medical and social determinants of HIV/AIDS in South Africa?
Well, that's what these meetings are all about. It's important to share and disseminate science and knowledge, but more than that, it's getting different people into the room together who don't normally sit and work together on a day-to-day basis. It's fostering links, it's understanding, and so how the meeting advances that collaborative agenda and starts to become a kind of touchstone for these collaborative work that goes ahead. So I think really it's all about crossing over, coming together, getting to know each other.
And what are you finding just in reading the room? What sort of mood are you finding? Are people open to, the possible discussions that may be taking place, or what it is that they're there to do?
Well, that's another reason this kind of conference is so important is, we've had a really tough year as a group, as an industry. And so to be able to draw some energy and some optimism from each other and some drive to move forward is really important. And so I feel like that is what is happening. People are feeling energized by being together.
Well, Dr. Rees, hopefully we'll be able to touch base with regards to, what happens in the closing of the conference and agreements. And also what's very key is always time frames and accountability going forward.
100%.
Dr. Rees, thank you for your time. That's Dr. Kate Rees, a public health specialist at Anova Health Institute and co-chairperson of SA AIDS, joining us of a conference 2025, and she was joining us on the line. It is 12:30 Central African time, and our news headlines up next with Matapelo Mahape.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Headlines this hour. Former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's family is challenging the South African government's decision to repatriate his body to his home country. And South Africa's parliament returns after winter constituency work, with President Cyril Ramaphosa answering oral questions in the National Assembly. And gunmen described as a terrorist have opened fire in Jerusalem, killing at least 4 people and several others left wounded. More details on these and other stories at top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We start off with the cricket news. Proteas coach Shukri Conrad admitted following their 342-run defeat at the hands of England that it was an embarrassing moment for him and South African cricket. The loss was the heaviest ever recorded in one-day international history and ranks as one of the most pitiful moments in the country's sporting history.
Similar thing happened in Australia where after going 2-0 up, a complete aberration. They got in excess of 400 as well. So yeah, there must be some truth in that. And but if we were going to be poor at something, we'd rather be poor at games that we aren't clutch games, but not making light of today's defeat. It was slightly embarrassing.
South Africa won the toss, the only thing they won on the day, with England then posting a mammoth 414 in their 50 overs. A timid batting display then saw the Proteas bowled out for 72, their second lowest total since the 69 they scored in Australia in 1993. At some point, they were even 7 for 4 inside 5 overs.
But that probably summed up the day, and then before you know it, you're 4 down. Obviously, the disruption of Temba not being able to bat, that played a part as well. So very difficult to explain. But yeah, if you're not on top of your game, if the edge is not there, then you're going to get exposed the way you did. And Jofra running in the way he did together with Bryden, that pretty much summed up why we found ourselves at 10 for 4, 10 for 5, whatever it was.
On to football news. Comoros moved within a point of Group I leaders Ghana with a composed 2-0 win over Central African Republic yesterday, opening round 8 of CAF World Cup qualifying and piling pressure on the Black Stars ahead of today's fixtures. The visitors claimed the win in Sunday's lone CAF World Cup qualifier, a result that leaves them to second in Group I and confirms the CAR elimination from the race for 2026. Now, tennis news. Carlos Alcaraz says winning next year's Australian Open to seal a career Grand Slam is his main objective after securing a 6th major title in New York on Sunday. Alcaraz beat chief rival Jannik Sinner 6-2, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4 to claim his second US Open crown and would become the youngest man to win all 4 majors if he lifts the trophy in Melbourne next January. Alcaraz's compatriot Rafael Nadal holds the record as the youngest man to win all 4 majors. He achieved the defeat at the age of 24 in 2010 when he won the first of his 4 US Open titles. We end with golf news. Rory McIlroy held his nerve to win the Irish Open in a dramatic playoff and claim his first victory since completing the career Grand Slam at the Masters in April. The world number 2 edged out Sweden's Joakim Lagergren on the 3rd extra hole to win his national title at the K Club for the second time, 9 years after his first at the end of thrilling final round. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9.
Former politician and diplomat. He's the leader of the Democratic Alliance Party at one stage and also served as South Africa's ambassador to Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay. Ambassador Tony Leon, if you were party leader now and in the GNU, what would you be pushing for?
I can speak with some direct experience because, as you might know, I was actually one of the negotiators of the GNU last year when it was formed. What I'd be pushing for is to hold the government or the president's feet to the fire on actually operationalizing the agreement that was implemented. Unfortunately, that agreement has been honored only in its breach. And I think, go back to basics and just say, okay, we're not going any further with this arrangement until we actually implement these steps.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Broadcasting in 5 different languages, connecting the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective. Business news on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Good afternoon. The Kenya Tourism Board says that it has partnered with Visa to develop marketing campaigns to improve payment accessibility and promote both cross-border and domestic tourism spending. As part of the partnership, Visa will provide access to its Government Insights Hub, which is a data and analytics platform offering insights into travel patterns, peak seasons, regional preferences, and consumer spending behavior. The Congress of the South African Trade Unions, COSATU, has called on government to immediately intervene to bring down the ever-increasing electricity prices. This as consumers face an electricity price hike of 8.7% in the next financial year. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa conceded to a $3 billion settlement error through a court process which allows Eskom to claw back the revenue shortfall from consumers through further tariff increases. COSATU's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks, says they want the government to intervene.
First is short-term relief, to give some sort of relief to these affected companies. It can be in the form of reduced tariffs, tax relief, relief from the DTIC, or so forth.
The Gauteng provincial government in South Africa is in the process of implementing digital invoice submissions for tender processes to curb corruption. This was revealed by MEC for Finance, Lebogang Maile. He says tender applications, evaluations and monitoring processes will be done digitally. Maile further revealed that they have also introduced a system where invoices will be uploaded, minimizing interaction with government officials. He says implementation will start with 5 departments, including the Office of the Premier and the Treasury.
So what we want to do is to eliminate human interference in the tendering system.
The South African government is holding a conference whose aim is to find ways of using artificial intelligence to improve its delivery of basic services. The 2025 GovTech conference is taking place in the city of Durban. It's brought together representatives of ICT industry in both the private and public sectors. The conference is held under the theme One Data, One Citizen, One Service Delivery Journey, Digital Transformation. Major automakers will showcase their latest models at the Munich's car show today as Europe's automotive sector faces crises ranging from US tariff hikes to costly electrification and the expansion of Chinese automakers on their home turf. Aside from a product blitz to counter Chinese models being pushed to European consumers, including by BYD, Chang'an GAC domestic firms will focus on lobbying to persuade the European Union to reconsider its 2035 ban on combustion engine cars. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 527, Botswana 13 pula 32, Kenya 128 shilling 49, and Zambia 23 kwacha 88. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you 5.41, Russia 80 rubles 24, India 88 rupees 19, China 7 yuan 13, and in South Africa the dollar will cost you 17 rand 57 cents. 74 pence to the British pound, at 85 to the euro. Gold is trading at $3,523 and platinum $1,388 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $66.69 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisolo Hoko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Nkhanza zokhudza amuna ndi azimayi kapena kuti gender based violence GBV zikuwononga mioyo komanso phwasula mizi zikuchitika m'manyumba, m'masukulu, malo ogwirira ntchito ndipo kwambiri mwakachetechete, koma sizikuyenera kupitirira. Mukazimva yankhulani, ngati mwakhuzidwa funani chithandizo, chifukwa kusachita chilichonse sikuthandiza. Mverani ku mawayilesi onse 14 a SABC kuchokera lachitatu pa 23 mwezi uno wa Julayi kuti mumve zokambirana, malangizo, masewero, zionetsero za maphunziro ndi mafunso okhuza nkhanza za amuna ndi azimayi ndi akatswiri, anthu opulumuka ku nkhanzazi, kukhazikitsa lamulo komanso dziko lonse lokhuzidwa ndi nkhanzazi. Zonsezi pa wayilesi yomwe mumayikonda ya SABC. Imbirani pa nambala 0800 428 428 kuti munene za nkhanzazi kapena kupeza chithandizo. Nkhanza zokhuza amuna ndi azimayi zimatha ndi inu. Uthenga ukufikani kuchokera ku SABC.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126 and contribute to the conversation. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:42 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. Now, at least 730 million youth and adults worldwide lack basic literacy skills, with 4 in 10 children failing to reach minimum reading proficiency. On today's International Literacy Day, governments are being reminded that literacy is a fundamental human right. This year's theme is promoting literacy in the digital era. And to speak to us further on this, we are joined on the line by Zuleika Gulam, iSchool Africa Disability Inclusion and Accessibility Program Manager. Zuleika, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu and South Africa. Thank you for having me today.
Now, Zuleika, the 2021 progress in international reading literacy study reveals that more than 8 out of 10 grade 4 learners cannot read for meaning in their home language. Do we know why this is so?
So, South Africa is facing a global crisis with regards to our literacy development. And unfortunately, it is due to a lack of various factors, such as the reduction or the lack of early identification, the lack of support in home languages, especially with regards to literacy. And unfortunately, our learners fall behind and they're not identified early enough.
Now, what needs to be done? South Africa ranking the lowest out of 43 participating nations, trailing behind countries such as Egypt and Iran. Now, this is a major concern for the country. Why have we failed?
Unfortunately, it is an area which we have room to do better in and to grow in. We are struggling based on a lot of lack of resources, a lot of lack of training, teacher training, professional development. However, there's a lot of room to close these gaps and to bridge these barriers in South Africa.
Now, what are some of the consequences to this?
Literacy is a predictor of later life success and academic success. If a child cannot comprehend what they are reading, if they cannot communicate via written language, if they cannot communicate and understand basic literacy, it affects our economy, it affects our matric pass rate, and it really affects learners' self-esteem.
Now, let's talk about this year's theme, promoting literacy in the digital era. How could this benefit the issue of literacy?
So this is actually my favorite because this is what we promote and do at iSchool Africa. The the move towards a more digital world is where we are going. And that is what we do at iSchool Africa. Moving to digital resources allows inclusive education, it allows home language literacy, it allows learning and teaching to be adapted to the learner's unique learning style. You also have interactive books, you have audio books. It's really a huge transformation in literacy and what we can offer to our learners.
And what sort of responses are you getting as in your space, iSchool Africa? What sort of response are you getting from the digital era?
So, iSchool Africa's reading and literacy program has actually seen a 15% increase in literacy rates. And we're seeing learners who are neurodiverse, learners who are dyslexic, learners with hearing difficulties being able to interact with digital books for the first time. We have accessibility features on iPad like speak screen and dictation that function as a reader and a scribe for learners. For the first time, we're seeing learners have this independence to engage with literacy resources, and it is absolutely phenomenal.
And how can adults start learning to read for meaning? Because you find sometimes it's not only the children, but also adults.
Absolutely. These gaps that develop in early childhood do persist to later life. And there's no such thing as not being able to learn. Our adults can have practice, they can have exposure, and exposure is the key. Exposure to literacy resources, exposure to resources in your own language, that just develops you more. There's also many reading groups and libraries, especially digital libraries and resources available for adults.
Now, learning to read in your home language, you find that because in most schools, teaching is done in English. How do we then balance that act?
Yes, so it's always the most beneficial to expose a learner to English as well as their home language. Being able to learn and expose a learner to literacy in their home language gives them a sense of comfort. It gives them a sense of you belong and you are able to learn in both languages, especially when you expose a learner to a story in their home language and then further supplement it with a book in English. We actually have a resource on our iPads called African Storybook, which has literacy and digital books in all the languages of Africa. So our schools read to their learners in their home language and then further augment that comprehension by then reading it to them in English.
Well, Zuleika, it's a very interesting one. And, what are you hoping for this International Literacy Day and what governments need to do?
We really ask for a call to action from governments, from corporates, from stakeholders to get involved and see the huge lack and gap in literacy development in South Africa and be part of transformative educational change. Join NPOs, join iSchool Africa, and really give learners an equitable chance to quality learning and resources in a method which they are able to interact and engage with, such as your digital literacy resources. So this is not something that we should just overlook in South Africa. This is a huge issue. This is a huge barrier to us, and we really need to come together as communities, as South Africans, and make change in literacy.
Well, Zuleika, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you, Lulu.
That's Zuleika Gulam, iSchool Africa Disability, Inclusion and Accessibility Program Manager, joining us on the line.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Our communities in the north of the KwaZulu-Natal province are up in arms about unregulated fishing in marine protected areas off the South African coast. Now, residents of Cozy Bay who live inside and on the fringes of the Isimangaliso Wetland Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, say they are relentlessly targeted by law enforcement officials, but that these officials fail to act against big fishing trawlers and other illegal fishing operations in the area. Now, this is seemingly due to a lack of resources and institutional will. Kosi Bay consists of 4 interlinking lakes that flow into a sandy mouth before meeting the ocean. Our Suzanne Paxton spoke to locals and compiled this report.
Kosi Bay. It's a beautiful zone. It's a beautiful country. Kosi Bay. Even the units come from ancestors to generation. That fish wrap, they like a culture to Kosi Bay. Because even the Vasco da Gama, when they starting cruising in the sea, they found when they broke the ship around there, they found one of the family fish wrap at the first one around there. It's very, very important to us, the people for Kosi Bay. It's like a cultural thing.
Local fish trap owner and community leader Jeffrey Mgomezulu says Kosi Bay is known for its tsonga fish traps. Each trap belongs to a specific family, and another local, Sandile Mgomezulu Myeni, explains that it is passed on from one generation to the next.
So this started from our grandfathers long ago. So these are our fish traps, and you see this one, this is ours. So here this is a fish trap, and then here this is a cutting fence. The cutting fence, from the cutting fence there is a funnel inside. From the funnel inside there's the fish trap as well. So the fish, if the fish is coming this side, as I said, this is a cutting fence. If the fish is coming this side, it comes out, then there is a fence. This fence will guard the fish up until it goes inside the fish trap. So
the fish traps are constructed in such a way that smaller fish can swim through, and this, according to Mgomezulu, ensures the sustainability of the fish population. There is, however, a dark cloud on the horizon: plastic pollution.
If you see that thing, it's not good, because we're killing the whales, even the turtles, if it's like that. Sometimes, if you employ the people around the Kosi Bay, all the people sometimes, the fish, everything species, with the plastic like that one, they're killing a whale, turtles, the children never see again when they destroy nature.
Illegal trawling in the Kosi Bay mouth has reached critical levels. Coming from the direction of neighboring Mozambique, ships lay anchored in international waters, waiting for nightfall to drag their nets across the ocean floor. Mgomezulu believes this illegal trawling has a significant impact on the fish population.
During the day, they in deep. During the night time, they're coming close to the banks with the ship. The moment is nothing, because I think they're running short of some like a boat, everything like that, like a velo, no equipment for working. They're influencing the fish in the lakes because they're coming in the mouth, the fish coming in the deep sea with a shoalie, they come to laying in the lakes. When they come, they took it, even they broke the coral, everything they destroyed because they're using a big net.
According to the community, this environmental crisis should be addressed immediately, but they are kept in the dark as stakeholder engagements have broken down, leading to mounting frustration. Mgomezulu elaborates.
They never talk with us. They never talk with us. We talk, we go to right. When it start calling, they're running away to the community. So they use it like a headmaster chief, not us, not a local community.
Mgomezulu is positive that there is still hope that the situation can improve.
If we work together, we can stop. Because together we solve issues. Pollution, plastic, we come with the Chinese. When you look all around there in the sea, you're writing in Chinese. They throw all lots of things in the water because never like to make it South Africa or Africa sustainable conservation. We like it in nature, ocean. It's the best us. So like a Maputaland people, the best thing, ocean.
It is clear, however, that it's not only the livelihood of the fish trap owners of Kosi Bay that's under threat. Recreational anglers and tourist establishments in nearby coastal areas are equally affected. I'm Suzanne Paxton for SABC News in Kosi Bay.
Kosi Bay.
The inaugural Vision 2040 Indaba closed last Friday in the Gqeberha city of South Africa's Eastern Cape province. The meeting was discussing Vision 2040, which is a bold strategy that advocates for a people-centered, conservation-driven agenda that will ensure collaborative thrivability between biodiversity, conservation, social justice and economic empowerment. The event was spearheaded by the South African National Parks, Sandparks. Tutongobeni compiled this report.
Government stakeholders, funding institutions, businesses in the tourism and hospitality industry, traditional leaders and healers among those represented at the 3-day Vision 2040 meeting that took place in South Africa's Eastern Cape province. Hosted by the South African National Parks and Parks, Vision 2040 is a visionary strategy which reimagines the role of conservation as a catalyst of redress, economic advancement and job creation in the surrounding areas where the conservation parks are located. Carol Neake, owner of the Tinyuko Kruger Lodge located in Mpumalanga Gate of the Kruger National Park, expressed hope for what Vision 2040 brings for businesses such as hers.
Again, what I'm going to say is with the Vision 2040, it's going to grow our businesses because now we are here, now we are here in Eastern Cape. We were in Durban 2 months back and now we're here in Eastern Cape. So it shows that the things that Sandpark and Kruger said they will do, they are doing it. And it's not only about us making money for ourselves. No, we're giving back to the community. We're employing families out there, all the families that we employed, they are feeding 100 families.
Nandimaya Tula Koza, Sandpark's board member, says the meeting was a positive step towards an inclusive and sustainable conservation in South Africa.
Report by Tuto Ngobeni. Well, it is that time of the day where we say happy Monday to Tebogo Lekoleni of the Upside team. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Lulu. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
How was the weekend?
Weekend was good. Yours?
Pretty chilled. Did you see the blood moon yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Did you grab pictures?
Yeah.
It's not make sure.
No, I did. Actually, now that I think about it, I did.
Did they come out proper? Because mine were blurry.
Yeah, no, they were fuzzy and all.
But at least you saw it.
I saw it,
At least
yes.
you saw it. It was pretty cool. Here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. Amid the rising transport conflicts in South Africa between the taxis and e-hailing services, we get a better understanding of the legal rights and the protection of e-hailing drivers.
Okay.
Right, so we better understand the legal recourse that they can take when the taxis start to bend down their vehicles and attack them and prohibit them from doing business. And then we talk about property in our property segment this afternoon, how lifestyle and identity are shaping how South Africa are buying property and the property market in South Africa. We are becoming nomads now. We work anywhere. As long as you have network, does that mean that you still need to invest in property? Or are you just investing it for yourself or for business purposes? We find out more about that. And then we get into conversation with a remarkable young lady who took a business, a construction business, from 3 million rand operational turnover or operational operation of 3 million, and turn it into a 53 million rand operation. This is a remarkable story. Her name is Tebogo Moloi, and she'll be joining us on The Upside. That's all coming up on The Upside.
That's The Upside coming up at the top of the hour with Tebogo Lekoleni and Matsiko Musito. For myself, Lulu Gaboo, and the Africa Update team, it's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow. Continue with us on our socials. Bye-bye.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
With your news at 1 o'clock, I'm Matapala Mahape. Good afternoon. Judgment has been reserved in the appeal by the family of the late former Zambian president